So, just like in the time traveler module, there are many different ways and variations to create what can be referred to as a risk-free trade. There are endless adjustment considerations, and the topic of scaling in versus just clumping your whole entire position size down at once is something that goes back and forth depending on which trader you are talking to. Some people want to scale in, some people want to put the whole position on at once. That's going to be so trader specific that all I want to share with you here is there are many different ways to do it. I personally feel like it's better for you to determine what works best for you, and the way you do that is by trying both ways. Try scaling in, try legging into positions in tranches, and one or two contracts at a time until you get your full position size on. Come in and put on a full position size all at once. See which way you're more comfortable with, and then stick with the method that you prefer. All right. For me personally, I like to scale into my trades. I like to start out small. If the trade becomes a winner, great. Sometimes I am more content with smaller profits, but then if it begins going against me, I know that I have that reserve to deploy more capital to defend a trade. So that's just one way to manage that. But when we're looking at, let me bring this over here. Let's just say this T1 main core trade, okay? That's what we're going to refer to for the moment. If we're going to just follow this construct and we say, all right, well, we know what our capital outlay is. It's, we're going to say that we're starting out at 5,000 per butterfly. We're going to launch it every Friday. We've got these, parameters, take profit, we got max loss, etc. If we come and open up a trade such as that, let's go back in date to, why don't we just come back here to, how about December 16th? It's the middle of December. It was at the beginning of a long period of sideways ranging market, and we can say, well, we have options that expire in 74 days right here. I could come right at here where my delta is 39, and again, the videos below, we're going to go in great depth and detail on some trade examples, both live trades, both back-tested trades. We're going to go through many examples to share with you adjustment considerations. But let's just look at this T1 module here. If we go 1, 2, and we'll just say 1, that's probably going to be a pretty decent place to start. So you can see we've got 74 days to expiration. We've got a trade that's going to cost you about $4,400. You've got no upside risk at the outset. So right off the bat, when I say creating a risk-free trade, you can see that you have already, by design at the beginning, no risk to the upside. All right, so zero risk to the upside. This is one lot butterfly. It's going to hold you back about $4,400 worth of margin. Well, what if you want to put your whole position size on at once? And so say you put on a 10 lot. All right, we'll just do that. $50,000 trade all at once. Well, you've got the same kind of setup, same kind of parameters, just larger amount. You have zero risk to the upside by design, by default at the outset. So right from the get-go, you understand and you accept that I'm only defending to the one side, and that's to the downside. And if my goal is to create a risk-free trade, you have to be willing to accept that you're going to give up potential profits to put yourself in a risk-free situation. You're already in a risk-free trade to the upside, So you have no risk of loss to the upside. Your only risk is losing to the downside. And I'll show you that you can remove that downside risk as well, but it will come at a cost. And that trade-off is you're going to give up some of this upside profit potential. Some people accept that and are fine with that and desire to get into a risk-free position as soon as possible. For me personally, I don't mind accepting the risk because that's what trading is all about. I accept the risk of trading. Now, I'm not reckless and I manage my risk, but some people are just not comfortable with that style and they want to get into risk-free situations as quick as possible. So one way in this type of method with this T1 Core PDF that you're looking at is this is how you'll do it. You'll say we'll convert the trades. Oh, we've already converted. So we've got the trades converted. We've got a $40,000 trade. And let's just say we'll jump forward, a month. Say nothing has happened. Market's moved kind of sideways. Remember, by design, we're not doing anything anyway until we get under 30 days to expiration or take profit as hit or theta becomes negative, right? So that's the upside adjustment. Downside adjustment, first day the market closes below the lower long strike. And I know just, because of looking at the chart here that we never closed below 2075, right? We never got anywhere near down here. We opened the trade back up in this area right here. Let me just zoom in. We opened it up right around in one of these candles here. So I know we never got down to 2075. Now we're up, fairly decent profits. 1920 divided by 44,680. We're up about 4.3%. So we're not quite to our target profit of 2,500, but let's say that you are you belong to the camp that says I want 100% of my risk off to the downside. All right. Well, this is how you do it, and it's a very simple maneuver, but just you have to accept and understand that that does come at a cost at giving up some of these upside profits. All right. So you have a trade that's up 1920. So the way you remove the downside risk is you don't do anything with the lower longs. What you do is you remove a couple of these short strikes. So it takes this, right, that has all this downside risk still built into it, albeit more than 2 standard deviations away, long way away, and it gives you this, right? So now what you've got is you've got on your T+0 line, it never falls below 0. You have taken 100% of the risk out of the trade to the downside. And if you get a black swan event, you get a 20 or 30%, you get a 20% correction on the market, and you're going to be, quite content with those profits. Now, if that black swan event comes along once every 10 years, you also have to calculate how many profits you have given up in that 10-year period by doing this, but understand that this is one of many ways to remove 100% of that downside risk. Now, you should be also noticing, however, but I've put all that upside risk back in the trade, $1,500. Yep, you sure have. And so what do you do with that? Well, you take these and you roll those down first. All right, so it takes this trade that has a guaranteed 320 to the upside. Now it gives you a guaranteed 3730 to the upside, but you have to remove that downside risk. So then you go back in and you say, well, maybe I remove 3 or possibly even 4 of those. All right, so then it takes this position that has at expiration, you're going to net at minimum $320 with all this downside risk still built in. Now at expiration, you're going to break even. And actually, you know what? Let's do this. That might be too many. We might say just do 3. Yeah, that's better. Now, you know you're going to net a guaranteed 871, which is better than 300, albeit, yes, but it's over $1,000 less than the 1970 or 1920 that you currently have. So again, it's trade-offs, right? I mean, that's the dichotomy of trading. You're going to have to decide are you willing to take the risk to have the potential rewards, or are you wanting to remove that risk to sacrifice some of the potential rewards in the process. And I can't answer that question for you. That's you to decide. And while yes, you do technically have this expiration risk right here, what I do to offset that, if I found myself in this kind of position, all right, and let's just say the market had a rapid quick move. Here's your T+0 line, nice and flat. You have a quick rapid move down to, this area here. So let's say you have a very rapid quick 10% move down, right? So you find yourself down in this area right here. Well, what do you think is the easiest way to take care of that? You buy in. Your short strikes right here are the ones that are hurting you. So every time you can get one of those removed, what does that do? That further removes that downside risk, so that eventually if you have 10 of those short strikes off, what do you have? You have unlimited profit potential to the downside for this risk to the upside. Now you wouldn't do that obviously, but the thinking is, if I have removed 4 of them and I find myself down in this area here and the market has already corrected 10% down, odds are very likely that it's going to continue accelerating to the downside, and you can either keep your short strikes on or just finish removing the rest of them. But that's one of many ways to create a risk-free trade. You already have a risk-free trade to the upside. If you want to create a risk-free trade to both the upside and the downside, well, the way you do that is you move some of these upper longs closer and you get rid of some of your offending short strikes. That's how you do it. And then you keep your T+0 line nice and flat. You have guaranteed locked-in profit at expiration to the upside, and as long as you stay above this level right here, all right, your expiration graph, then you maintain and you capture those profits. Now, let's just keep it like that. Let's make that conversion, and let's fast forward again a couple more weeks into the future, because there are many different ways, and you just have to accept and understand that this is the market you're going to be trading, and you still have your 871 locked in, but now you've dropped from 1900 to 1300. If you don't like that, then don't make these kinds of adjustments. If you want that risk-free nature trade, well, then you have to accept that's the trade-off. Once this T+0 line dips below this 0 line, it's time to do something else. So we'll go forward a couple more days in time, and we'll say, okay, now our 13 is back up to 15. We're still hanging above here, right? But once this starts dipping and sagging, so we'll say 2 more weeks. If we went 2 more weeks into the future, now what you will notice, all right, your 1500 is getting pretty close to what your expiration is going to be, but now you see you're picking up a little bit of this downside risk right here. So at that point, you have a decision to make. You either capture and realize these profits, close the trade, you only have 18 days left to go, or what do you have to do? You have to buy in another one of these, and every time you buy one of those in, you sacrifice more of these upside profits and more of these upside gains. But look at what has happened, and I ask you the question, why is it happening? Okay, you have 18 days expiration. Options that you sold for $23.60 originally. That's your original price. That's what was put into your account when you sold that. You sold 20 of them, right? You've already bought back 3 of them. Well, now if you buy back another one, you're buying it back for 95 cents. What you sold for $23.60, you're buying back for 95 cents. That is a gigantic win on this part. So as you get closer and closer to expiration, when these continue to decay more and more and more, that's the quickest, simplest, easiest maneuver to take, right? You're sacrificing, you're continuing to sacrifice upside gains, but you already have a risk-free trade 100% to the upside, and every time you do that, you are further amplifying your risk-free trade to the downside. Because the T+0 line, this dotted line right here, is what we trade. We don't trade the expiration graph. We trade this graph. So let's say we did that right there. Convert that. We roll forward another week into the future. We know we're locking in guaranteed profits to the upside. We still want to protect against potential black swan risk to the downside, right? Now, but see, you're starting to slope underneath until eventually you only have 11 days left. What I sold for $23.60, I'm buying back for 32 cents. So let's say I just buy back in the remaining 5. Now what have I done? I've created a risk-free trade to the upside and to the downside. I'm going to make at minimum $521, and I have still 11 days in which, if we get a Black Monday type event and you turn on your computer and you find out that the market has dropped 30%, well, what does 30% give you up here? $453,000. Pretty good black swan hedge if you ask me, right? Now, is that going to happen all the time? No, it may never happen in your whole lifetime of trading. But if you're mitigating that risk and not worrying about the profits, you do put yourself in these kind of situations, in these scenarios. And you'll say, well, what if I only bought in 4? Well, then you're still going to have just a little blip right down here of that risk. Or you could even go 3, right? See, it gets closer and closer to the 0 line, but you're going to put yourself in that guaranteed. I mean, there are very few times I use absolutes in trading, but this is one of those circumstances to where absolutely you will not lose money if you follow these steps and you put yourself in this kind of situation. You have to accept the fact, though, you went from being up $1,900 at one point to only realizing and capturing $500. And if you accept that because you want to be in this kind of a situation, just understand that there are psychological implications with that kind of trading. If you're trading smaller accounts, I personally don't trade in this fashion. In larger accounts, if you're trading 6 figures and up, I absolutely will be trading in this fashion. Okay? Am I trading 7 figures right now? No. Will I be someday? Yes. Will I trade like this? Yes. So just understand that this is one of many, many, many ways to create risk-free trades, and it's understanding why it works the way it does is more important, and it's removing the upside risk first, and then as the market moves around, you're buying back in the offending short strikes. The offending short strikes are what give you this little hump and this little bump down here. You could buy all of those in, and what does that do? That gives you a very, very, very small trade, but, and like the last little example, let's say the market has a 30% correction down, right? Highly unlikely, but let's just say it did. Well, your $40,000 trade that started out is going to give you over $1 million. But again, we're not trading on scenarios that happen maybe once in a lifetime. We're trading on scenarios that happen month in, month out, and we're using our knowledge of the probabilities and the math and how these options decay. So again, just another flavor. If you add this video in tandem with the Time Traveler video on removing risk, just understand that it's going to come at a cost. And if that's acceptable to you, that you want 100% of the risk off, there are absolutely many ways to do it. All right, so on to the next video. Thanks for listening.